There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. Oh, there are times when we get to talk to somebody who is really special. And this is one of those times. And today is a very special day in his world. And Brichelle, I have, by the way, Brichelle is here. And Brichelle, I have to tell you that if you notice, right behind our guest today, you will see a Christmas tree.
Da-da-da.
And you know why that Christmas tree is still up?
Why?
Well, it's a superstition. Because his team, when they went through the NCAA and stuff, the Christmas tree was up and they kept winning. So because of the superstition of making, sometimes guys wear the same shirt or the same underpants or stuff like that because they want to they want to make sure that they don't do anything to jinx the team before, and now they're in the NCAA championship game. So Brichelle, would you like to introduce our guest?
I would love to. We got to talk to this gentleman not too long ago, and we are back to have a great conversation with him so soon, which we are thankful for. We have Scott Abbott with us here today. He has a website, which happens to be his name, scottabottabc.com. This man knows all about company building, business, executive coaching, angel investing, also being an author and being on a podcast. So he's had some experiences that we've gotten to chat about, which we'll share through the show, that are extraordinary for our lifetime. So welcome, Scott. How are you?
Thank you, Brichelle. I'm good. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. And yes, I'm sure a lot of your listeners by this time have heard this who's yours, but I don't know if it's superstition, but I was on the road. I told you I was at the Rose Bowl. I was traveling for a few weeks. So I sort of feel like I also miss Christmas. So yes, it's a little bit of a vibe. And today is the day of the national championship. So hopefully the tree comes down tomorrow with happiness. And if we don't make it to the final destination, it's still been a great ride, but it's great to see you. Thank you both for having me on the show.
Of course.
And you have another book coming out in the summer, do you not?
Well, I have one that just came out, Boss-Up Moments Volume 1. And this came out about 40, 50 days ago. Volume 2 is coming out in the summer. So Volume 1 is Catalyst, 40 moments to help you in business, work, and life, more so from a soft skill perspective versus the strategy and mechanics and engineering that's in the original Boss-Up book. And then I'm in my home office here, and on the wall over there is actually my whiteboard with Volume 2. And we're about 80% through to that one. So right now we're just sticking in the Boss-Up Moments Volume 1 world and having some fun with it.
When you say soft skills, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so emotional intelligence, mindset, heart set, specifically in work, as Brichelle was so kind to intro, we spent a lot of time on what I would call the engineering, the strategic, the tactical, the mechanics of how to build, run, and scale a great company. And we talk about processes and KPIs and OKRs, and sometimes it can get a little company speak, so to speak, if you will, right? A lot of that, the infrastructure, the chassis in a car, and then we also have these things called humans that have to be a part of the equation. And humans have emotions, and they have feelings and perspectives and temperaments. And so what we're really trying to do with Moments is give everybody an insight and a plan and a blueprint and recommendations. They could use journaling and AI and just have a kind of a fun way to learn how to improve, again, soft skills around how to deal with conflict and set good boundaries and have an appreciation of the energy and how to communicate and collaborate and build, run, and scale. So it's kind of this fusion of head and heart and purpose and profit and systems and soul, and they go together like milky cookies and peanut butter and jelly.
And I'm willing to bet, and Rochelle, I'd love your thoughts on this, but I'm willing to bet that you've never, ever, ever run into a CEO who says, doggone it, if we could just get rid of the humanness out of the employees and make them just toe the line and do what they're supposed to do without the emotion, without the things that happen in their personal life, I would run a much better company. You've never had that happen, have you?
Yeah, these darn humans. I think the world's evolved. When I first started working some 40 years ago, there's a lot more of that, Kevin. It was really, toe the line. And I think that's where the words like bureaucracy and all that stuff came about. But I'm going to kind of toot the Hoosiers horn right now. If you follow them, Curt Cignetti, and even the players are loving it, the 20-somethings, but they do respect good structure and good systems and understanding their collective and individual roles, responsibilities. But what Curt does as well is he also, as a modern era leader, he embraces culture and individualism and inclusion and cooperation. So I think the world has worked in our favor, that more modern CEOs are really, in my opinion, it's more about good to great versus kind of this historical vibe that was out there before. But there's no doubt that humans are human, which means our DNA, and we struggle sometimes with our temperament and our attitudes and our style. And so I think hopefully CEOs want to help them both with the execution side, the production side, but I also think the good modern CEOs and leaders today want to help them in life as well and be more comfortable and confident and aware, so that everybody together is, improving and getting better in business, work, and life.
That's an important aspect. Rochelle, what do you think?
Yeah, especially if we flip that from outside of ourselves, that's actually what we're craving. That's what we're asking for. That's what a company is looking for, is specific individual people who have talents that can take things above and beyond and have a different perspective. But when we let that clash, it's almost like, would you say maybe, Scott, that it has to do with a fear of learning? Because when it comes down to it, the only thing that makes a difference is to learn.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody has an appreciation to learn and moreover to grow.
Of course.
And I think with AI and the advent of hybrid workplaces and coming out of COVID, we all kind of went in our proverbial own corners. And that's not the way humans are built. Humans are built to be together, to be in community, to have reciprocity. So, I think a popular word today is agency. And I think agency, said differently, is about ownership and accountability. And it's not easy to both invest in the individual's growth and development and success, and do so at the same time with the team and the organization coming along at the same time. Back to, again, our little team, the Hoosiers. I think they're known now, and they profess the sum is greater than the parts. But I like to sort of joke, while there might not be an I in team, you can't spell team without an M and an E. See what happened there? And so I think, and I'm going to give credit to, more often than not, I see leaders today, Kevin, to your point, wanting to go good to great. When I first started working a few decades ago, there were a lot of owners that were just, indifferent would actually be the nice part. They were almost aggressively against this fusion of head and heart and production and living a good life. And I think today that's working in our favor. But the challenge is, how do we do it? How do we work on and in, and how do we make sure that purpose and profit are combined? And that's what we do over here, and that's what Moments is about, is trying to fuse the duality of do good, make good, and be good.
Well, isn't it true that most employees, most people that go to work for a company, they are vested in the company's success, because that's their paycheck and that's their emotional involvement. But sometimes it's not reciprocal, and the problem with humans is they're human. and they have human stuff that happens to them that may happen on the weekends or at night, or you're having a bad marriage, or you have issues and stuff, and it's hard for employees to separate from work life and home life because they are really all connected. How do we build a system by which a CEO can bring it all together? Because I think the residual impact of that, and families and friends and the company and the turnover and the productivity, and it's all intertwined, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And just like our bodies, our head, our hearts, our brains, our brawn, our spirits, and our systemization. So 100% you're correct on that one. In moments, in BOS-UP, in our Coaching Solution Academy, we have a framework called CLEAR. And we literally encourage our coaches and our clients to embrace CLEAR almost as the ground rules, if you will. And clear is a word, the pursuit of clarity and keeping things clear. And, are we clear, crystal, all that kind of good thing. But it's also an acronym. And the acronym stands for collaborative, logical, empathetic, authentic, and resilient. And we believe if you at least subscribe and do your best to agree to those bylaws, those principles, those that, think of it like agreement-based commitments, that at least gets you to the next level. And then back to empathy and authenticity. So in moments, for example, I'm trying to share to the contributors, the employees, the importance of thinking like an architect, builder, and custodian, which is what good owners and founders and leaders think. And then we segue into leadership, management, teamwork, and accountability. And all of those independent of each other are important and good, but put those together, and that's like rocket fuel. That's where the magic happens. And so, yeah, it's not easy. And so back to the world today, back to culture, back to investments, certainly we got P&Ls and balance sheets and cash flow and all that kind of corporate lexicon around performance and execution. And Kevin, you said earlier, we do have a deal. And hopefully most people understand, if I do pay you every couple of weeks and it's a safe environment and you contribute and you get paid, right? In return, I'd like to get your best person. And if you do it right, we should co-invest in not just the growth of the company and the success, but in our individual success. And so I think there's a good thing going today. And I think coming out of COVID, and if you look at the bright side of AI, the ability to leverage that type of insight and technology to just be smarter and better. And this also scares some people because, a lot of people can call BS on each other because, AI is helping us now discern and determine and understand a lot of things that you don't technically need to know. You can just go to AI and say, all right, riddle me this, Batman. And boom, next thing you know, you get some answers that you didn't have before. So back to transparency and vulnerability, it's a pretty cool time. And some people are embracing it, doing great. And no doubt some others are scared and hiding and are challenged with trying to, agree to this new reality of both being performed, but also bring about purpose and passion and cause. The employees have a right to have that as well.
It's really difficult, isn't it, Rochelle? Because when you get to be in my age group, the computer thing, there were no computers when I was young, and there was no smartphones and all of that. And now all this technology is here. Your age group grew up with all of that stuff. And that gives you kind of a bit of an advantage, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did have computers. I was still in a 99 baby, so I was like right on the verge. Motorola started to be a thing, cell phones were a thing, and video games and the DVDs started to turn into something on an app, and all these things changing. And just in my lifetime, I could only imagine when I get to the point of where Kevin's at, and I'm looking back and I'm having those conversations. And as you guys were saying that, I don't know how to frame this into a question, but just a thought. And I really want to hear what you have to say about it, Scott. We'll probably have to take a break, so we'll give you a minute to think. But we try to separate so much, and it's not your job. It's not your this. It's not your this, right? It's life. Like we're saying, we're human. So why aren't we fully accepting that? We're trying to minimize this and expand that, and we're not really allowing things to kind of just be and fit in that web. And to match into exactly what you're trying to help people realize is, if you are in tune with yourself, you're not going to put yourself in a position to be mistreated in the workplace, or maybe start a business or a company without the right intention set behind it, or a good foundation, and focusing on who you are, because it doesn't matter where you're at and what you're doing or why. What you are and who you are is what is reciprocated out into the world, and it's also what you're getting in return.
Yeah.
And so when we complain about these things, it's like, okay, well, what can we learn to do within ourselves so that we can move forward in the workplace and at home, and learn to kind of merge these things and allow ourselves to be human. And you may have some tools and some things that you've learned I'd love to hear about when we come back from the break.
Okay.
Well, and his course is a paramount
Yes.
part of that. And I would like to mention that Scott has a dog, and a good dog just went by. What's your dog's name?
That's Harley. Harley's a rescue dog. She was found chained to a store downtown Indy a couple of years ago, and a good friend daughter found her, and we brought her into our home. She's been awesome.
Aww.
And thank you for doing that.
She's a mutt like me. I was thinking it as well. So
at the end of the day, we're all mutts, and one of the human mutt problems that we have is there is fear. And there's a lot of fear around AI and how it's going to change the environment and change people's lives. And I would, in addition to what Rochelle said, I would love for us to address that in the next segment, because it's okay, everybody. And we'll be right back right after this. Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. You know, some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin, and Rochelle is right there, and Scott Abbott is with us. He has been in the past a podcaster. He is an author. He is a coach. He's an executive coach. He helps business people actually do business in a more, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, in a more humanistic way, so that they can achieve so that everybody in the company feels motivated and that they can achieve greatness together with whatever the mission happens to be. Does that make sense?
Well, that's the ideal. Now, because they're humans, they don't always cooperate and do what they're supposed to. As my dad loves to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. By the way, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I loved your video. You know, you use the word catalyst. That's the name of volume 2, by the way, catalyst. So I love the word catalyst. So,
hold on.
I want to go back to I feel like back in my DJ days of college radio when we used to have soundtracks like that. This is cool. So you know, it's not easy to, and it's a big word, but it's not really. The word is compartmentalization. So in our solution, in systems, we talk about the essential concepts, tools, and disciplines. We talk about the 9 core competencies. How do you fuse vision and values with production and execution, right? How do you fuse profit with purpose? It's not easy. And you've got to compartmentalize. And for humans, that's hard. That's hard to say, okay, I'm going to disengage my heart and I'm only going to engage my brain, and I'm going to disengage my mouth and I'm only going to engage my eyes, and I'm going to disengage my thinking and I'm going to engage my ears. We're humans. And one of our moments is humanization, especially with AI. So I'll tie into the AI side too, right? And so if you do compartmentalize, if you do your best to have good systems and good structure and good rules in a good way, not a bad way, right? And you understand AI, for an example, is an asset that should be your ally or a co-pilot, right? You own it, don't let it own you. And it just basically, and I have a video on this, it's like adding 50 IQ points to your intellect. At the same time, right, you got to make sure that, as I said earlier, you don't let it, get the better of you in terms of manipulation or influence, or, worst is hallucination that they have that turns on to you. So back to this ability and this requirement, this need to be able to compartmentalize. It's not easy. That's where good systems and structure comes in. And then the use of AI, actually not to, incite fear, but to minimize fear, to use it as, again, an asset as your ally, to just get more comfortable and confident, to enhance your discernment, to enhance your critical thinking. I love the show, guys, and the title, right? But I'm kind of passionate of neither a cynic nor an optimist be. We want to be positive pragmatists, right? And so you're just finding that nice middle of the line groove. And I think that's what it's about. To your point, Rochelle and Kevin, back to fear and AI, it's finding this line. It's not easy of respecting that there's opportunities, there's challenges, there's fear, and there's joy. And if we're good humans and we're, we got a good support system and structure, we're going to get from this to the other side easier, better, and stronger, appreciating that it's an and both, but we also have to make sure we have good boundaries and agreements and established, an understanding between us, our coworkers, and even in life at home, if you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's all connected, because people eventually, even if they're working, 40, 50 hours a week, they eventually have to go home. And if they go home and they're not happy, and then they kick the dog, and then they bite the wife, and no, that's wrong. Anyway.
The wife bites them.
Bites them back. Yeah, that's kind of the rule. But there are people, Scott, in our world, and we know one of them really quite well. And Samuel has been a major part of what we do, and he was on the streets of Nairobi, Kenya. And he was just living on the streets, and he's become a really part of what we do, because Rochelle, go ahead.
Yes, Samuel says, hello, greetings, brother, Kevin, sister, Rochelle, and guest Scott Abbott. Receive greetings from Kabiria Restoring Hope Center, based in the slums of Nairobi, Kenya. We are listening and watching to you live. Thank you, Team Positive Talk Radio, for highlighting our feeding program. Every show to the world. We are proud of you. Together we are strong. Amen. Me and Samuel spoke this morning, and it's this sense of knowing that there's so much more. Not necessarily knowing how you're going to get there or what it's going to take and how you're going to compartmentalize, which is huge. And everybody has their, I wanted to use the word that you guys love, the catalyst, because everybody has maybe many little moments or one big moment that is the catalyst that sparks that change, like Samuel had, like you did, Scott, and Kevin, and even me being here. I don't know, maybe I haven't even experienced that fully yet. But Scott, was there a moment that you remember that you would say that was the catalyst moment, and what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot. Like most humans, I've had good days, bad, and failure and success. I'm going to do a shout out. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and I'm going to paraphrase one of my favorite quotes of Martin Luther King. It basically is, if you're a janitor or you're a ditch digger, whatever your current function, role, employment is, if you could just do your best to be positive and to be great at what you're doing, shine shoes like nobody's ever shined, and lead like nobody's ever led. And you basically have the courage and the temperament. We talk a lot about imposter syndrome. And I actually think there's something to be said about the positives of imposter syndrome. Fake it until you make it, right? Mm-hmm. So at the very last moment in the book is gratitude. And I've got some pretty heavy moments in there where we talk about some very heavy stuff. And again, I get this is easier said than done. There's a lot of inequities in the world, and we all want more equality and inclusiveness. Be that as it may, we should all strive to work on it. And if we can, ideally, back to positive pragmatism in your show, if we show up with the right heart set and mindset, and we choose, which isn't easy, choose to do our best to say, hey, I get to versus I have to, that little moment of almost a brain hack, if you will, I get to versus I have to is pretty powerful. So again, I appreciate what you just said, and no doubt there's bummers and there's challenges, but do your best to realize that you're still here, and it's momentary. And if you keep doing what you're going to do, good things on average happen.
Yep, exactly.
And they will happen, because if you believe and choose to be the best person you can, that in my world, that means that if you're going to be like, I started out my restaurant career as a graveyard dishwasher with Denny's, and I decided that I was going to be the best damn dishwasher they'd ever seen, and which led to a lot of other different opportunities and things, because if it doesn't matter where you start, isn't it kind of where you end up and what you learn along the way?
Yeah, well, I don't know who said it, but I've just embraced this at my stage right now, right? The destination is the journey. And I don't know if it's a stoic or what have you, but to your point and earlier, right? I've had, glum days. My first book, Level Up to Pro, I talk about it, where I basically made too much money in my early 20s, and I got ahead of myself, got a little cocky, big-headed, moved out to LA and lost it all in about 6 months, and came back basically destitute and broke, and lived in a shanty shack motel where the bed folded out of the wall for, several months, literally eating macaroni and cheese and ripped off food from the company cafeteria. And, actually shout out to Tony Robbins, by the way. I embraced his tape series that time, because that's how long ago this memory was. So, yeah, I mean, again, you don't want to get all, rah, because there is real stuff in the world that's challenging and it's frustrating. But I would say, sometimes the lows are what you need to get a shot of reality. And I'd also say therein lies the problem too, is I've seen a lot of highs that people have almost an inappropriate reality that when things do go bump in the night, they just crash really hard. And so again, I just, I choose to embrace the concept called harmony versus balance. I think work-life balance is a bit of that in itself is almost passive aggressive and intimidating, but harmony is like music and food, right? In fact, we went out the other night, and I liked about 80% of what I ate, and I didn't like the other 20, but the harmony worked out okay, right? Great place, and I think that's the difference between balance and harmony. Is some days, some seasons, sometimes a little higher, a little lower. Some things on the left are a little nicer than on the right, but all in all, to your both points, right? If you just try to appreciate the totality, even though you're working in the moment, that mindset in of itself helps to get you that next level of goodness.
Yeah.
Rochelle, question?
There's so much going through my brain, Scott, and it's hard to narrow it down, because what I was thinking the most while you said that is how Kevin told me this one time. I'll take responsibility. I'll be the goat on the show. He told me if I had ever heard of self-sabotage. And at first, it was a little like, you did not just say that to me. Of course I've heard of that. I don't do that. I'm not that person. But then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, because every time I hit a point in this high, there wasn't the sense of me in myself deeply to believe that I maybe deserved to be there, or whatever the situation was. And every little time there was something, whether it was major or little, but was impactful to me, I would crash. And we think that that's just normal. Like, we just do that. We'll talk about the kids say now I'm crashing out, we shouldn't be maybe so accepting of that. But is there maybe reasons that you found that we do that to ourselves when we hit that spike, rather than creating a new momentum and staying there?
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot with actually very successful people who, in spite of their success, economic and business, right, they end up having, I'm just going to use the word vice. Now, some of them are more treacherous than others, but they get in their own damn way, and they actually don't want to get out of it. There's a I don't want to get all in the psychology and sociology of it all, but really a bigger point, I think, Rochelle, to your point is, I'm a little, opinionated on this, given the BOS-UP Coaching Solution Academy.
That's okay. Speak your truth.
Again, the whole idea is, I don't want people to avoid failure or mistakes. You learn from those. But ideally, if you can minimize them and power through, right? We've all heard the silly expression, if I only knew then what I know now. Well, that's a bunch of hooey, because you can't change the past, let alone perfect it. But what if I take somebody else's hindsight, and it becomes my foresight, and I could use it as insight, so I can avoid some problems and challenges. I can optimize some opportunities. I can get there a little quicker, a little cleaner, a little saner. But there's no doubt self-deception, and even worse, I've seen self-sabotage, which is more extreme. And it's because I think there is something, believe it or not, and you said earlier, Kevin, the word fear and pain and oh, woe is me-ism. I've seen it. And a lot of people just don't want consistent, clean air. They like a little turbulence. They want some ruffled feathers. And I've seen some CEOs, even to your point, that know better. They know that they can have a stronger culture. They know they can fuse purpose and profit, but they choose to be almost antagonistic.
Yep.
Because, it's part of their DNA. And as I like to say, God's got a sense of humor, right? And so, there's some things we just don't understand, and we just got to do our best to work through it and control the controllables, ideally.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, by the way. And Rochelle, we need to take our halftime break. And can you go through Scott's information so that people can find him, because they need to work with a man like this?
Yes. Well, the best place to find everything that Scott has to offer in this world, about him and the books and all this stuff, go to Scott Abbott. That's ABBOTT ABC.com. You can find that stuff there. Scott, is there any other place that it is better to reach you?
No, and also the interwebs. I'm pretty active on Instagram.
Awesome.
Scott Abbott ABC, and LinkedIn, Scott Abbott ABC. I'm not as much on X these days, but Scott Abbott ABC.
Awesome.
And that's it. And then all the books are on Amazon. So thanks for shouting that out.
And I'm willing to bet that he has people in his life that think that he's got a lot more to offer than just the website, if you know what I mean. And Scott Abbott is with us. He is an extraordinary man, and he spent his whole life working to help people understand that they too can live any life they choose to live, even if they don't believe it's possible. Because when we come back from this break, I'm going to ask him, Scott, is it possible? We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin, and Rochelle is right there, and Scott Abbott is with us. He is an author, a executive coach, as noted in his website, which again, Rochelle, is
Scott Abbott AC, I'm creating my own alphabet over here. Scott Abbott ABC.com, also available on social media the same. So.
And Scott, I want to ask you, because you've talked to a lot of folks, a lot of successful people, some people that have failed and then been successful and then failed again, and all of that. What is it? Why is it that many of us, believe we set our own ceiling of what we are capable of accomplishing in this life, and so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that if we believe we can't, Rochelle, and you and I say this a lot, what did we say, Rochelle? If we believe we can't,
you're right. And if you believe you can, you're
right.
Yes.
So, Scott, why do we do that to ourselves?
Again, us humans, I don't know who said this first. I'm a bit of a recycler, if you haven't noticed. I've read a lot of books and invested in a lot of programs, materials, and resources. And at the BOS-UP Coaching Solution Academy, we've got hundreds of hours of learning and materials and programs. But somebody once said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits and your systems. Let that one sink in. And I think another one that really inspires me is, back to goals. People talk about results and achievements, but you don't result into results. You don't achieve into achievement. You step into it. You have processes, and again, good days and bad days, like we've always talked about. And some of us are more blessed than others, right? I've had my parents are my heroes. I've been very fortunate for the most part. As I shared earlier, I've had some really tough days where my ego got the better of me and I didn't reach out for help, and I was stubborn and egotistical and arrogant, and I just suffered longer than I needed to. So, you should always reach out when you're having tough days and ask for help, even if it's not comfortable. But I would just say, I go back to my purpose, cause, passion today. I think the fusion of head and heart, of systems and soul, of profit and purpose, of embracing proven frameworks and protocol. And again, some of these words might sound a little jargony, but if you could complement your heart, your energy, your willingness with a more structured way to move forward, I've just seen it. It's just awesome. In fact, Jim Collins, the famed author, wrote, "Magic happens when the spirit of discipline meets a culture of leadership." And Isidore Sharp, the founder of Four Seasons, another one of my favorites, right? Systemize predictable to humanize the exceptional. It's counterintuitive. The more good you are, yes, I said that, the more you good are on the X's and O's and what we would call the non-negotiables, the things you should do, almost to a point where it sounds like, really, I'm doing the same thing over and over again? Yes, because that actually frees you up to be a better version of yourself. It frees you up to bring your individual abilities if you know that you're running on a good system. It's why the term audible in football, right? When the quarterbacks are really good in the playbook and they have their SOPs and they know their KPIs and they have their OKRs, when something goes off track, right? And they get all this uncertainty, they call an audible. And then when they're really good, they get back on track. So it's the same kind of a logic here, right? To really be good in business, work, and life, you got to have an approach that you understand so that, again, you can deal with the inevitable goods and bads that happen to all of us.
Oh, yeah, indeed. But there, and Scott, I know you've seen this, but when you have a group of people that are working for a common purpose within a business, and when I was in the restaurant business, it was very simple. It's service. We will do whatever it takes to make our guests happy that they are here, and that that means the food's got to be right and the dishes got to be clean and all those nuts and bolts things. But at the end of the day, it was about taking care of the guests, because as I explained it to everyone, the better we take care of the guests, the busier the restaurant will be, the better the food will be, the faster the service, and then we will have more guests because they like that. And so when we have more guests, you make more money. And that seemed to click with them, because then it was because that was the overriding thing. If somebody said, well, what about this? How does it impact service? Does it enhance it or does it detract from it? And if it detracts from it, we don't do it. If it enhances it, by all means. And do a lot of businesses miss that part? Because or do they get it and I haven't seen it?
No, I think you're right. And in our solution, we use a term coined by Stephen Covey, the famed author, called ROCKS. And ROCKS, by definition, are prioritized projects, programs, and initiatives that you want completed basically in the quarter. Made even simpler, there are things that you should either start doing or stop doing. One more time, start or stop doing to be a better version of yourself individually and for the company. And if you do that, all boats rise. And yes, I think, the Z generation's getting a bit of a bad rap. I'm going to blame it on these darn millennials because, us Xers are the coolest generation of all.
The baby boomers are better.
Baby boomers are awesome, man. Dig those guys too. But I do think our analytics and this isn't anecdotal. We've got a lot of data to back this up. But they like structure. They want to know, hey, this is my seat. These are my roles, accountabilities, responsibilities. These are my measurables. This is what I should be doing. Yeah. Do they want a cappuccino at 3:30 on a Keurig device that's not just old fashioned, gas station coffee? And do they want to work 1 or 2 days in the cloud, so to speak? Are there trade-offs? Yeah, right. And I think that is the new normal. The new normal is there are trade-offs. But again, you can't have trade-offs if it's loosey-goosey. You can't have trade-offs if you're not on the same page. You can't have trade-offs, to your point, if you don't have a commitment around your purpose, your cause, your passion, and understanding that to get paid every 2 weeks, I've got to do these, 10 things, and I got to do them right. You follow me? That reciprocity. And I think sometimes people, because of some of the noise over the last 4, 5, 6 years, both on the fear of being canceled and not speaking up or whatever. But I think, again, hopefully with AI, this is one of the advents is AI is just data. And it's information maybe at best, but it doesn't create knowledge and wisdom. That's where the humans come in. And so I think we are on a new frontier where people have to be talking more and communicating and collaborating more. And yes, AI is going to mess up some employment, but I really think it's just bringing us into a whole new frontier around elevating the people side of things. And now people, both employers should commit to upskilling and cross-skilling. We talked it earlier. But individuals now, think about it. You can almost access a whole college online for free these days. So, certainly there's excuses. I get it. But on the other hand, there's kind of no excuses to your ability to self-teach and to initiate. And again, hopefully shows like yours, and this, these are sparks. These are catalysts. These are ways to help people in an effective, affordable manner learn something that they didn't know. And again, start or stop doing something to make them a better version of themselves.
Yep.
And speaking of which, I just want to say that if you're listening to this and Scott Abbott is teaching you something, I need for you to listen, because his words are golden, because he really does have a gift for working with professionals and everybody else, doesn't he, Rochelle?
Yes, 100%.
And so consequently, I do have to ask you this, because you've looked at an amazing number of P&Ls, and you talk to CEOs and you look at their books and you talk to them about it. How many P&Ls have you seen that have got a line on the P&L that's marked turnover and the cost associated with turnover? I have never seen that in a P&L. Have you?
Well, it's going to sound like I'm just saying this, but if you're being coached by one of our coaches and you follow the BOS-UP solution, yes, because we literally, we're benevolent dictators sometimes when it comes to the type of data we think you should be looking at. And turnover is one of them, attrition. A lot of companies will do NSP, right? Take the assessment of their consumers. And a lot of times they don't do it inside the organization. So that's part of our solution. I know you didn't set that up for me to say it, but I'd say on average, no. And I don't actually blame them. I think, again, if you look at your average small, mid-market business, company under 250 employees, give or take, under, 250, 500 million, they're busting their butts in the business, and they don't really have the time to work on the business. And I see this with companies been around 10, 20, 50, and they just kind of one day something happens, they go, I didn't know, I'm not doing, I need to know, and I need to do. You with me? And ignorance is not an excuse. It's kind of like, getting a car accident without insurance and finding out you need insurance and saying, well, I'm going to go buy it now. It doesn't work that way. So, I think, again, to your show and to your credit, you're helping people get insight that they may not be aware of. But yeah, I'd say there's a lot of businesses that don't understand, just because you can't quantify it doesn't mean that you shouldn't measure it. And so we really are insistent that there are contextual and qualitative elements of a business that don't necessarily fit in a P&L and the rows and columns on a spreadsheet that also should be remembered, just because it's a pulse, right? I don't need to have an actuarial type audit I want to look at some numbers that just sort of gives me a pulse, a sense and a sensibility of what's going on, right? Sort of to feel the forehead and say, hey, before I stick in a thermometer, ooh, you feel okay. So yeah, we really encourage in the we call them the scorecards, but we ideally every organization from a function to a company should have measurables that don't necessarily correlate to an empirical number. You look at attrition, you look at turnover, you look at people quitting. Sure, those are some empiricals, but you also, those are what I'd call the symptoms and the lagging indicators, right? You want to get to the root cause and the leading indicators, and that's a lot harder.
It is.
Because you have to anticipate, and
yeah. So
a lot of folks,
you should do quarterly conversations with your employees, right? We don't believe in formal. We believe in what we call weekly team meetings. We believe in same page, clear the air meetings. Back to moments. And in fact, moments, if I may, just in the last 30 days, we've got dozens and dozens of companies bring it in as their learning and development program. And then by doing so, now they have gone on the record and saying, hey, we're committed to investing in you. There's a funny old cartoon, you may have seen it back in the day, and it's the president sitting with the finance person, and the finance person says, what if we train our people and they leave? And the president says, what if we don't train them and they stay? So there's always that dynamic of inputs and outputs and gives and takes, right? But I would absolutely say, yeah, you should try to measure some of the intangibles, because in this world today, I'd actually say, to your point about restaurants and service, the intangibles are very tangible.
Yep. And you know, Scott, one of the things that I've always said to subordinate managers and stuff, I said, take care of your key employees, because if you lose a key employee, it's going to take 5 hires to get another person of equal value to the organization. That's going to take months. As an example, if I were to lose Burchelle, if she were to, don't leave, please don't leave. If I were to lose her, it would take me till I'm 80 to find somebody as good as her to replace her. And now I've given her a big head, so now she's going to leave and ask for more money and all that kind of,
But what if you didn't and I would have stayed?
Well, and you also, Kevin, thank you. You sparked me. I would say yes. But in addition, I see this a lot with business owners who say something to the effect of, I can't take care of myself because I'm so busy taking care of other people. And frankly, I think that's selfish, not selfless. It's kind of like on the airplanes, right? Put your mask on first. And I do know pilots, and I'm going to tell you, it's only in the movies do they tell you that they're thinking about 145 souls in the back of the plane. You ever looked in the cockpit? There's enough shit up there that they got to worry about that they're doing, right? So they're thinking about their own souls at their house. They say, hey, if I've got a little selfishness and I land this plane, guess who else comes along with me? So I think in addition to what you said, Kevin, one of my passions is, I see it a lot. The owners say, basically, I can't take care of myself and be as healthy as I am. And I'm like, there's your problem, right? You can't be there for other people if you don't first take care of yourself. It's servant leadership at its finest. And so I would just say you're absolutely correct. And I just would encourage, again, it's not selfish. It's not like you're doing something wrong to invest in yourself, both in terms of learning and just the food you eat, your spirituality, your relationships. You can't be a great leader if you're not in a good position. You just can't be.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And Burchelle, we need to take our break. Would you like to take us out?
Yes. And then I have a question for Scott when we come back. I want to dig a little deeper on. Go to his website, everybody. ScottAbbottABC.com. You can also find him on Instagram and Twitter and all the other fun things. Just reach out and go get this information for yourself. It is broad. There's nobody that can't fit into understanding this work. Thank you, Scott, for being here to share this message. We'll take this last break and then try to fit as much as we can within the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, and we also do a music show, and Burchelle does a music show, and she lets me kind of hang around a little bit. So here's a commercial about that. There is a moment in every life when you decide, no, that's not it. Not every song changes you, but the right ones do. At Greatest Vibes Unplugged, we share music that hits deeper, no filters, no noise, just pure sound with soul. This is your reminder that light still exists, and sometimes it sings. And remember, you can look up in the sky and see the stars, but still not see the light. And welcome back to the show, everybody. And I just proved again, Rochelle, that I am human. Because you hit the wrong button, and guess what happens? Anyway, ask your question of Scott before we run out of time.
Yes. Well, Scott, this was just kind of flourishing through my mind when you mentioned that you had a time where you kind of achieved all the things that you thought that you wanted and came to a point where you weren't connected with yourself. And we all know what it's like to fall. But if there was somebody who needed some encouragement or a good note from somebody like you, and they're trying to build themselves back up, that's what we don't talk about. We all know we fall flat on our face, but that building yourself again, whether it's the first time or the 1600th time, would you have any advice you'd give somebody on maybe building themselves in the right sense so they're not crashing so often?
You mean besides getting their hands on a copy of Boss-Up Moments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I was trying to lead to a little bit to
help myself there, right?
Yes.
But I'm going to say what's in here. And, you know, Blue Book, all the proceeds go to not-for-profit, under-resourced entrepreneurs. So we are a social enterprise, and I'm not saying that in a horn toot way. It's a very big passion of ours. So I would say, again, I you know, we've all heard that expression, if I only knew then what I know now, but you can't, it's silly. But I do believe there's power and insight and awareness. And I would just say, and it's not just because, you know, boss up business operating systems and structure, but if I could just implore to people, it's this fusion of systemization and structure and even big words like protocol and more, sometimes these are seen almost as a pejorative, but rules and rigor. You take that along with your heart, your passion, your positivity. One of the moments in there is around energy. Think about a street lamp. Street lamps are pretty good, right? They throw a lot of light out there. Now think about a laser beam or a flashlight. And there's times when you're a street lamp and other times you're a laser beam and a flashlight. And if you could just brace this duality of, again, and both versus either or, and you know that it's not selfless working on yourself and being a better version of yourself, right? We don't find ourselves, we build ourselves, right? We design and develop ourselves. We don't find. That's, you know, it's one thing to have serendipity. It's another thing to be intentional. So I would just say my biggest recommendation advice is to embrace the almost counterintuitive reality that to be your best and to be free and to be present and to be effective, you've also got to be rigorous in terms of how you get done what you're supposed to do. And you should think about terms like effectiveness and efficiency and production. And they do go together like milk and cookies, peanut butter and jelly. I just think in society and school, sometimes we've got this either or, and I think most things in life are an and both. And so that would just be it. And again, back to listening to shows like yours and realizing that you don't need to have all the answers, but you do have to get out of your own damn way and realize, you know, you can't read the label from inside the box. So seek assistance, be humble enough to realize there's materials, there's resources, there's assets in the world that can help you get from here to there, whatever your definition and version of that is, with more ease and efficiency and joy, because you're not just, you know, making up as you go along and being willy-nilly about it, right? You're being intentional. If I could share anything, that would be it right there, and to spark and catalyst to your wonderful videos and leverage other people's assets to your benefit and realize that that's not selfish, that's actually selfless.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's okay to ask for help. If you don't know what you don't know, then you have to, you got to figure it out.
My very first board that I was on, I was 37 and not that anymore. But after 2 quarterly board meetings, the elder sage in the room said, "Hey, Scott, I know you're kind of a smart guy and you've got these credentials, but we're talking about stuff that I got to believe you don't know everything, and you've never asked a question or spoken up." And he goes, "I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I just know between Spidey sense and Sixth Sense, you don't know everything." And he said, "Can I just give you a piece of advice?" I said, "Sure." I didn't deny it, by the way. He says, "Speak up, because it's better to be a fool in a moment than an idiot for life." And since that time, in fact, I'm almost like Socrates now. I prefer to ask a bunch of questions. I mean, you guys be very nice to me. Yeah. I'd like to ask you a bunch of questions, but a question with a question. So that'd be my other thing to your point. Ask for help. Speak up. rather be a knucklehead in a moment than a knucklehead in life. So
build that bridge. Don't wait for it to
your
appear.
comment. I'm sorry, what was that?
Build the bridge. Don't wait for it to appear, type of thing. Because what
you know,
Kevin was saying is, how do we build
I
this
call
bridge?
Fred Rogers on you, right? Stumbling blocks, not building blocks. And no
Yes.
rain, no rainbow, right? I mean, there's a reason why those things have become kind of in our words, because they're true. They really are.
Yep.
And they're very important. Rochelle, would you like to read this?
Yes. Kyberia Restoring Hope Center says, hello, team. Watching live from the Restoring Hope Center. We are tuned in. Say hey to guest Scott. Kyberia Restoring Hope Center. We love Positive Talk Radio Show. Hello, everybody. Mwah, we love you so much. And Scott, thank you for being here to share this message with, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're at, what you're going through. We all can learn out of the tiniest bits of knowledge from each other.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we have a lot of coaches at our academy, but if you do read the Boss-Up material, we're not trying to get you to hire a coach per se. We want you to think like a coach.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, that means, right, doing what we're doing right now, getting out of your own way, getting a little uncomfortable to get comfortable, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of that coach's mindset is a big one. So I appreciate what you just said, is that, start with yourself and be careful, right? You don't want to, jump out of airplanes if you don't know how to do it. So you gotta walk the line there, but have a coach's mindset, even though you're not technically a coach. That's a little bit, I don't want to call it a hack, but that's a little something from your Uncle Scott here.
Yeah.
Well, Unc, there's so many things that you can teach all of us. It's really, and go to Rochelle, his website again, and go there. He's got a couple of books out, and he's got a course that you can take. He also, and we're going to run out of time. I should wait a couple of minutes because this angel investor thing I'm always curious about as well, because he does that as well. But Rochelle, give us the information that we need to reach out to him.
Yes. Well, you can visit. Best place is ScottAbbottABC.com. The last name is ABBOTTABC.com. Thank you, Scott, so much for being here, for sharing your knowledge, for impacting the world the way that you have, and been willing to learn and ask for help when needed. I want to give you the last moment to share a message that you'd like to with our audience, and then any other best ways we can reach you or things to watch out for with the new book.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Kevin and Rochelle. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the show and your rhyme and reason for doing it very, very genuinely. So, inevitably, a lot of us do these New Year's resolutions. And I don't know if you know, but on average, about 92% stop doing them after like the third week in January. So we believe that if you're doing something important, you need to give it a brand. You need to give it a label. You need to give it a name. So we like good themes. And when we teach you should have a theme for the company, for the year, the quarter, and individually, right? And frankly, mine's Catalyst right now. And yes, there's some tie into the new book, but my theme for this year is Catalyst. And so I just encourage your listeners to take a moment, breathe and reflect and realize where they're at, where they want to go. And to their credit, they're listening to this so that they know just hope and good intentions alone won't get it done, right? I use this word strategic and tactical. So my last hope for everybody is sit down and through your thoughts and your work and your discernment and your journaling, what is your theme? What's your theme for the year? Maybe even a theme for the quarter, and use that both as inspiration, motivation to achieve that, right? And then share it with somebody. I'm a big believer in what are called agreement-based commitments. When you have a commitment shared with somebody else, I think the likelihood of you succeeding goes up like 65%. So be vocal, be visible, and find some camaraderie in what you're trying to achieve in terms of your goals and your improvement and what you're going to start or stop doing. So that'd be my addition to thanking you both for your time and having me on the show today.
Thank you.
Well, and I'm just hopeful, and I know sitting here that the Hoosiers are going to win tonight.
Again, we love hope and we love data and we love numbers. And I think when you put all that together, Kevin, you're the one that said the P&L. When I put all the spreadsheets and all the analytics, and then I put hope and joie de vivre and all that good stuff in, I'm gonna agree with you. But first things first, we gotta watch them play here in a little bit. But thank you for that. We
Well, I can
love
only tell you-
all of the support we get, especially from you Oregon Duck people that are now Hoosier fans, at least for one game.
Well, that's one of those things. Well, man, they kicked our ass. I hope they win because that makes us better.
Yep.
So, as Scott Abbott has been our guest, he's a remarkable man. Go to his website again. Rochelle is
ScottAbbottABC.com. You can also find him by the same on social media platforms.
And if you want to excel in business, go talk to him if you're stuck, because he has got systems and ways and coaches who can help you get out of it so that you can get out of your own way. And then you can create a dynamic culture within your business that will take you beyond where you think currently you can go. Am I right, Scott?
Yes.
Just end the book one more time, Scotty.
Boss Up Moments is the most recent, and then we've got Boss Up Blue, which is, they kind of go together like this. Yeah. So one's the strategy, the engineering, the format, the blueprint, and the other one's again around the humanization and how to help us be better in yes, work, but in life.
Now, I want you to remember that this is on digital stuff. So I was going to say tape, but I can't. Will you come back and talk to us again?
Were you going to say this is on Memorex, Kevin? Remember what I just
Yes.
did there? In my first book, I use a lot of Kevin's and Scott's. I think, Kevin, you're a man on my own heart. And I say very upfront, hey, Google it. Right now you AI it, but I think it's a good challenge that we try to teach these younger generations some of these old school expressions like, is it real or is it Memorex? Remember that? Or I should have had a V8 and all of these fun little lines from past TVs and movies.
Yep.
Oh, exactly. And I could go on for hours about that because we've lost so many things. But Scott, thank you so much for being here. It's been
thanks.
And enjoy the game tonight.
Happy New Year. Whatever time this comes out, wish you all the best.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.